All right. So, welcome to another one of my book reviews or kind of book key takeaways. This book wasn't the most recent book I've read. I've actually been doing a lot of reading this year, so I'm gonna have to catch up with these key takeaways. But this one was given to me by my wife, and I read it at the start of the year. Literally, I think I finished it like January 3rd or 4th, and the book is Love Does by Bob Goff. It truly was filled with a ton of wisdom. Again, this is one of those books that you read, and it's kind of hard not to write down a key takeaway every single chapter. Bob Goff does a really good job at outlining, what each chapter is going to be about and the sole message that he wants you to take away. Literally, in at the start of every chapter, it kind of has like a one-liner that summarizes a key takeaway. So in this video, I didn't want to just go through each little one-liner on the chapters. That's kind of what it looks like. But I will go through things that I wrote down that I thought were profound enough to really kind of put out here and tell you why it's a good book to read. Now, Bob Goff is a Christian, and coming into this book, I knew kind of what I was getting into with his religious takeaways and things of that nature. But honestly, I would say if you're Christian, if you're not Christian, it's still a really, really good read to kind of further you into your faith or get you started on that journey. And that was something that I really have been striving to better myself with coming into the year. And this book was a good segue to where I didn't necessarily feel forced. Like every page isn't riddled with Bible verses, but it's more so like how God impacts day-to-day life and how God is moving in an ordinary person's life. And that's literally what it says on the title. Not necessarily exactly what I said, but discover a secretly incredible life in an ordinary world. And I wanted to highlight that because ordinary is key word, and you'll start to realize like nothing about Bob Goff's life is ordinary. None of his experiences are. He might be an ordinary dude, and that might be how he describes himself, but truly all these stories are so incredible. And so just to dive into it, the first thing I took away is, again, the title's Love Does, and he goes back to that theme quite a bit. One of the first stories he goes into relates to this, but the idea is that love doesn't keep thinking or planning. Love just does. And he tells a story about a man who goes through his backyard, and he's kind of nervous. He says hey to Bob and his wife, and it's kind of weird, like standoffish dude. But eventually they end up talking, and the guy really loves Bob Goff's backyard. And they talk every time they see each other, and the guy, again, he's just kind of, you can tell he's got something on his mind. He's very happy. And so fast forward, he eventually asks Bob to propose to his girlfriend in his backyard. And then all of a sudden, like, all these plans start coming. Every time he sees Bob, he like pitches a new idea, like, hey, I'm gonna propose. There's gonna be like a bunch of servers in your house. Like, is that okay? And Bob just says yes. He's like, absolutely. And the core concept again is that love does. Love doesn't think. love just does. Like the kid was gonna make it happen, and Bob wanted to support that vision and really ensure that it was what he envisioned. And I thought that was very beautiful. Something that I would like to apply in my day-to-day life. Just doing, not necessarily thinking, and supporting those who dream. That's a mission worth pursuing. So, I know I said I didn't want to read every one liner on the chapter, but there's some very profound things that they that Bob actually cites and says. So this is one of them. I don't think I do this very often, but I used to be afraid of failing at something that really mattered to me. Now I'm more afraid of succeeding at things that don't matter. And this is kind of a realization I had before I came into this book. It's way better for you personally and mentally to pursue a mission that you actually align with and believe in. I would say professionally, my job is something that I would say I've been excelling at and pursuing very heavily. And then I took a step away and I genuinely, like, I'm not sure if I really was exceeding or succeeding at something that mattered. And it's a hard realization, it messes with your identity, especially with things out of your control. And I think that's where I was at. A lot of things were out of my control in the sense of direction. Like, it could have mattered, and it just doesn't. And I think that is a little difficult to accept, but it's reading that little chapter, sub headline, really helped me articulate it. Like, maybe I did get good, maybe I did succeed at something that I didn't align with, and now it's just up to me. I'm so blessed because I'm so young, but now it's up to me to kind of pivot and exceed and excel at something that truly matters. So, at least to me. And I think that's why we're here today. So this is just one liner, but it's go buy your books. And this story I thought was so amazing. It displayed persistence in a perfect way. So Bob Goff, he's like trying to get into the school. He's, doing everything he can, and he meets the dean, or I think it's the dean or the president of the school. And he didn't have the grades to get in, but he was like begging for this person to take a chance to, tell him to go buy his books. And long story short, Bob, every morning during class and even before would go and sit at this person's front door and just, watch his patterns, watch him walk into his office, watch him walk out, watch all the students go by. And he was just begging. He wasn't begging, but he was just saying, like, hey, tell me to go buy my books, please, like, give me a shot. And I forget the timeline for how long he did that, but having persistence and pursuing, again, something that really matters to you, this might be a feeling that I don't think I've felt. Like, I've never felt that pulled to actually sit at someone's doorstep or sit at someone's office and ask for an opportunity. And maybe that's because I've been blessed with opportunity coming towards me, but this is a feeling that I really want to experience. Like, I felt it with my wife. Like, the second I met her, I wanted to marry her. But when it comes to professionally, I don't necessarily think I've felt that. And again, I think that's why we're here. Like, this is the mission that I want to pursue, and there's way more going on in this than meets the eye that I'm very excited to show everyone. Right here, opportunity knocks when you're least expecting. This concept connects to a crazy story, and really the story is like so unbelievable. Like, Bob played a prank on his friend, and X amount of years later, Bob thought his friend was getting back at him because people at the Uganda embassy wanted to get a hold of Bob for him to kind of represent the U.S. in that relationship. And it was crazy. Like, what a cool opportunity. He didn't necessarily believe it was real. And he ends up going, and he thinks it's a full-on prank by his buddy, but it just so happens to be real. And he just, again, continues saying yes, and kind of fulfills that role and does incredible things like with that relationship. And I don't want to spoil too much of the book. It's well worth reading. I couldn't do it justice, but opportunity knocks when you're least expecting. He wasn't expecting to get that role. He wasn't expecting that to hit his desk. he was expecting a prank by his buddy. And I think having that mentality coming into things sets you up for success because your expectations are maybe not low, but they're you're expecting of something else, and when reality happens, it's gonna impress you. And again, I thought that was a good takeaway. This story, he tells a story about being dependent, and one of the it's not necessarily a key concept. I wish he touched on it more, but he got in an accident, and he's a lawyer. He could have bought a car, but he was too independent, and it was something that he had a realization of, like, oh, maybe I should be more dependent. And that's what he uses the car accident to be. He doesn't go out buy a new car. He just simply gets or starts utilizing his family. Like, hey, can someone drive me here? He learns how to skateboard. That's something I really aligned with. I love skating, but he literally just starts utilizing all of his friends and family to take him to and from work, or he again skates. And I thought that was such a cool idea and a cool concept, like learning how to be dependent. It is a skill. It's not how we're designed. And that to me I thought was powerful to know. Like, if you are too independent, you can learn how to be dependent and learn how to rely on people. So that was cool. And I'm sure vice versa. If you're too dependent, you can learn how to be independent. Now this was kind of like a self-serving note I wrote, and I say self-serving, that might not be the right term, but I thought it was really cool, and and it might not carry a lot of weight to everyone, but Bob takes his kids on a lot of trips, and one of the cool things that he did with his kids is they would learn about current events or things going on, and the kids eventually, he had them write letters to presidents or ambassadors of countries asking for time to meet. And a part of, kind of their education and them growing up, because they are kids, he would take them to those countries on invitation from the president or the ambassadors, and they would meet and ask questions, and there was a level of innocence that, obviously they came in with, and it was very compelling for the presidents to stay and to listen, because sometimes you have to strip it down. Like, sometimes these people are living in such complex worlds, thinking of their economies, thinking of, the social aspect in their country and outside of their country. It's insane. And so what they do is, Bob Goff and his kids, really, he just lets his kids ask questions and talk. He's just kind of there, sitting there. The kids ask all these questions that might be, from an outside viewpoint, innocent and maybe stupid, but to the president, it's exactly what they need to, in my eyes, I would say, like, reset and better understand their problems, or better understand the world that's going on, from a kid's point of view. And I thought that was very powerful. It's amazing that that opportunity even, transpired from an email, or from letters sent from kids, but got me thinking, like, the world works in mysterious ways, and opportunities like that, they come when you put yourself out there, and especially from your kids, like teaching them that, write a letter. That's very, I thought it was amazing. It's something that I want to promote in my household. This right here, I'll just read this one. Ordinary people is really just a label. That's kind of self-explanatory. You are what you make yourself. If you believe you're ordinary, you're ordinary. If you believe you're great, you'll probably be trending towards becoming great. And I thought that was, again, is amazing. And you might be ordinary, but maybe you're just not appreciating what you have going on around you. This right here, let me read this. Be with people. Don't fix others. Sometimes people just need someone to be in their presence. And that was something that I really resonated with, when my dad moved to New York, and I was 15, my buddy Mooney, I remember I don't even, I think I only have my permit. I didn't have my license, but I remember calling him. It's very late. It was like at midnight. And I was like, hey man, can I pick you up? And he was 15 also. And he had to convince his parents for me to pick him up. But I ran him through the story and he related to them. I just remember we drove together and we were just, talking the whole night. I think we stayed out till like 2 or 3 a.m. and it was a school night. But he did a really good job at just listening and being there. And, I don't necessarily think he understood my feelings, or I don't think he even had to. I think I just needed someone to be there, talk through it, to laugh with. I remember we were laughing the whole night, and he was showing me like where his dad worked and stuff. And it was things that it was exactly what I needed, to understand that life goes on. This isn't necessarily normal or what should happen, but it did happen, and I can move forward and I can have normal conversation. And I think that was an important lesson. And I would say Mooney really stepped in there. Sometimes you just need someone in your presence to listen to you or just be there. And even in present day, I really noticed that with my wife. We don't even have to be talking. We don't really have to be doing anything. I just love spending time with her and being around her. Like we could both be reading a book in the same room, and it's a blast. This right here, quit the shadow mission, a life that looks like your real purpose, but is actually a safer, quieter version of it. So that's just the definition of shadow mission, a life that looks like your real purpose, but is actually a safer, quieter version of it. Now, this is all optics, right? Anyone can live somewhat of a fake life, right? Especially with social media, you get to see it. And a lot of people desire to display a fake life. And that's, again, part of the mission behind Familial, is to encourage people to live their normal lives and display it to their friends and family. And that's it. There should be no outside optics. I know people who post, little flexes like, hey, I just got this car. I just got, a house. And it's cool to be in the loop if I know you. Like if that's my buddy, absolutely, like, good work. I love you, buddy, whatever. But if you're displaying that to the world, what are you really seeking to, to validate in your personal life? And we're seeing a trend of that, especially in kind of younger generations where they're displaying it to the world because they desire attention and they desire outside validation. And I would say a part of my mission is to encourage validation of self. You should feel satisfied, or you should seek validation from you, and that's it. It really shouldn't come from others, and that's something that even I struggle with at times. But it's a journey. It's like learning how to be dependent. You can do that. You can also learn how to seek validation just from you or the people that you love and trust. Treat interruptions as opportunities rather than nuisances. Be available and say yes. And this is something that I really loved from the book. Bob says that, Jesus is always available, so why aren't you? And I thought it was a good take. Like, why aren't we more available? Like, we have cell phones. We can call anyone, be close to anyone that you want in this world. And yet we kind of aren't available, whether that's emotionally, whether that's, just for a conversation. People limit their availability. And, I think there is beauty in it to where, let's say you got a lot going on. You just want to isolate with your family. But even in the professional, like my career, like there's been opportunities that have crossed my desk and I didn't pick up the phone, and as a friend, there's been opportunities like, to play basketball or go hang out with a buddy and just be there for them. And I didn't pick up my phone, or I was, too lazy or too busy. And, excuses like that, I think only go so far. And it's a realization that I had and I've really prioritized being available for my friends and family, and they've been available for me. And that's something that I think is so important to prioritize. So, I thought that was a great thing. Be available and say yes. Be available. That yeah, it reminded me of LeBron too. Like everyone always says, they're like, I think it was Stephen A. Smith or Max Kellerman, but he's like, LeBron's availability is his greatest asset, um, which is true. It's like, guy is just available, but it should trickle down into our lives as well. If you're sorry for the LeBron reference. If you're loving people well, you won't have to announce it. They will feel it. Uh, this to me, I thought was very, very valuable. If you're loving people well, you won't have to announce it. I don't always have to tell you I love you, but I am going to show you. I'm going to make breakfast. I'm going to ask if you're okay. I'm going to be there when you're hurting. I'm going to be there when you're happy. I think that is key, and it's better to show people love rather than constantly tell them. That's something that I think I've really demonstrated in my marriage and in my relationship with my wife. And she's done the same, and a lot of people seek verbal affirmations or verbal validation. Uh, I think that's something that she valued, and we've kind of took a shift from that, and she has especially. It's now action. I'll show you I love you. But yeah, I wrote down again right here. Jesus is always available. Why aren't you? I thought that was a driving point, especially for me reading the book. Availability, it's key. And Bob Goff even goes as far as putting his cell phone number in the book. And I thought that was very powerful. Like, what a way to demonstrate your ideas. So who knows? Maybe we'll have Bob Goff on a podcast one of these days. But I just want to say thank you if you stuck around this far. I know the style might be a little boring, but it's more so for me, and again for my future children, to understand my mindset when I was reading these books. I want to have a nice library where they can go through and read the books that I read, and having my takes documented, I think would be even more powerful for them to understand my way of thinking. And again, if you're along for the journey, thank you. And I really look forward to continuing these. So appreciate it.